So the Mongols created, we've already discussed this a little bit, but they created the largest land empire in history. It comprised much of the Eurasian landmass. So if you know what the Eurasian landmass is, the Eurasian landmass is basically Europe and Asia mixed together. It's kind of like whenever you hear two movie stars got together and got married or whatever, or they're dating and they put their two last names together, and oh my goodness, it's on this big thing, and that's what they refer to them as. So basically, you can just say Europe and Asia got together, and so that's their name, Eurasia. Um, its capital was Karakorum, and so that's actually located in Mongolia, which is their homeland. Um, and they would go back there for a Kuritai or something like that, and different things like that whenever they were um, electing the next Khan or whatever. That Kuritai would be how they would elect their next people, and they would go to Karakorum, which was the capital of Mongolia. Genghis Khan died in 1227, and the Mongols, they really weren't that great at administrative stuff, I guess is a good way to say it. And so he didn't really do that great of a job in securing somebody to keep the entire Mongolia united as one giant khanate. So what happened was, following Mongol custom, which is very much like Germanic custom that we've already discussed with Charlemagne. Charlemagne split all of his the Frankish kingdom and the Holy Roman Empire. He split all of that between his sons, and so what was this giant like landmass that was it was ruled by one person. Whenever the Germanic custom happened, when somebody died, they split it all evenly between however many people it is. So now we have this big thing that's actually like a bunch of little things that were more of a confederacy than an empire. Well, the Mongols did the exact same thing. They have pretty much the same custom. And so what they did was the empire was divided amongst his sons, which he had 11 of them. He had 11 sons, and it was divided amongst those sons into what are known as khanates. A khanate is basically like a country, kind of. And those khanates work together, much like the United States. All the states in the United States work together for the common good of the actual nation. They kind of work together like that. But the different khanates were responsible for their own people and for their own betterment. They could expand. They could do all of that type of stuff into further places and conquest more places. But it's not really necessarily about the whole like it was with Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan had the entirety of the Mongol Empire under his command, and these different khanates, they would have their own stuff. So like the Golden Horde, the Yin Dynasty, and so on and so forth. They were Mongol, but they weren't part of one giant conglomerate of khanates that made it to where they were. It wasn't one nation; it was multiple different ones that worked together in more of a confederacy, I guess is probably a better way to say it. The Mongol forces after Genghis Khan's death attacked the Persians, the Abbasids, and the Songs. So they were really, really good at attack. That's what they were built on. Is they weren't really I just said a second ago, they weren't very administrative. So their administrative aspects of their kingdom, they actually pulled from people who were smarter in that area or who were better at that. And they just continued to conquest and basically let the Persians or people from Persia, the administrators from Persia, or the administrators from the Abbasids, the administrators from the Song, they allowed them to administrate the country while they did all their conquest. So basically, as you guys well know, like I said with the Roman Empire, the Roman Empire was built on conquest, and whenever they stopped being built on conquest, that's whenever they started to crumble. It's the same concept with the Mongols. Whenever they kind of got comfortable and kind of started assimilating, that's a good word for you, assimilate. It means to like culturally diffuse. It means to mesh two cultures together. Whenever they started to assimilate with local customs and so on and so forth, they started kind of getting pretty lax in what they were doing as far as expanding their empire into further places. Plus, whenever they got to Europe, they ran into castles, and there was some problems there. As you well know, that horses are not going to be able to siege a castle. Not to mention the fact that the Mongols, their entire strategy was built on go in quickly, run over your people that you're trying to take over, and then move on. Whenever they hit those castles in Europe, it just kind of wasn't a very good thing. They went to Japan, and they were stopped. We'll talk about it in a minute, but they were stopped by they put two different times to go over to Japan, and both times they were stopped by what's known as the kamikaze winds, which is essentially two different typhoons. So like they just were stopped by two different typhoons. They weren't able to get across into Japan, and so it's a pretty good deal. So I don't know.